Games on Krack.
The next generation of gaming has arrived with the recent releases of the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. And with the advent of a new generation in gaming comes promises of cutting-edge experiences for gamers to get their hands on. Microsoft has worked hard to claim the throne of the most powerful console on the market, a title that they claimed towards the end of the last generation with the Xbox One X. But now that we're here, and without a promised Halo Infinite no less, is Microsoft's new hardware just a bunch of specs hype, or is it truly the future of gaming that's been promised to gamers? What up though, it's your boy Krack Diesel, and this is Games on Krack. And the next generation is here. We gonna get to it, but please, if you don't mind, hit that like button and subscribe to the Games on Krack YouTube channel. Also, if you're on Facebook, check us out at the Games on Krack Facebook group, and you can follow your boy over on Twitter and Instagram at Games on Krack. And while donations are never required, they are always appreciated through our Cash App, hashtag GOK Game. This helps us get more equipment and take care of costs required to run in the channel. So did Microsoft deliver the future of gaming? In a word, yes. But this comes with a few caveats and possibly deal breakers for two groups. Group 1 being people looking to enter the Microsoft ecosystem, and Group 2, gamers in the ecosystem with an Xbox One looking to upgrade. We'll get to that a little bit later, but let's start with my initial impressions. The best place to start is the presentation of the console. Packaging is actually some of the dopest packaging I've seen for a console to date. It's purely aesthetic, but it can't be slept on. Once you open the box up, it reminds me of a display you'd see in a retail store behind a glass case. Make sure you check out our GOK unboxing of the Series X for a closer look. It's definitely sleek, and once you actually see the console, it passes the eye test for high-end gaming hardware. Much has been said about the mini fridge design, but I'm a fan of the look, especially the green accents on top of the system. It probably doesn't lend itself well to being customized like a PS5 does, but you never know. That being said, it still might be a struggle getting it vertical in your entertainment center. After hearing the familiar Xbox chime and booting up pretty silently, my initial excitement dwindled significantly as the setup process took over. Microsoft makes it easy enough to set up through the Xbox app on your phone, and the initial 4 gig update isn't flagrant, but when hyping up all these next-gen features, including speed, something that gets overlooked is the amount of time that you have to wait. Once you download the first update, you have to download an update for your controller, and if you didn't transfer your games to an external hard drive or SSD, you'll have the Series X on all day downloading your whole collection at very questionable speeds. Like seriously, I have 1 gig internet, my download speeds at times were atrocious, and I was hardwired. This speed was only an issue with my Series X, so I'm assuming it's the console and not my internet. You'll have some time to admire the controller, which thanks to the tactile surfaces is an upgrade from what was already my favorite controller design. My palms get pretty sweaty during extended play sessions, so this is a big quality of life improvement for me. Beyond that, Microsoft went safe in their design choice, changing the D-pad and adding the share button. Admittedly, it's not the step into the future that PS5's haptic feedback controller is, but you can't fault Microsoft for improving on an already successful design instead of building from the ground up like Sony. Sony's innovation may pay real dividends, but it's too early to know. And for now, I'm fine with Microsoft's approach. It's also worth mentioning that if you already own Xbox peripherals like controllers or headsets, they're compatible with the Xbox Series X. If it ain't a Kinect, it likely runs with the Series X, and that will instantly save you some money for accessories. Something you won't be saving money on? Expandable memory. The Series X is advertised as a 1 terabyte system, but you really have about 802 gigs, which got me to 16 installed games. This isn't a deal breaker for me because I've gotten used to the vicious cycle that is deleting and re-downloading. But if you like to have a large collection of games at your fingertips with the next-gen benefits, storage is a must. 16 games right now may look much different when the Series X starts kicking out games that really push the limits of the console. And unfortunately, if you don't already have an SSD, you'll likely end up paying the $220 for the 1 terabyte Seagate expansion card. Just know it's a possibility. At least Microsoft makes it easy on you with an easily accessible, expandable memory slot in the back of the console. Once your Series X is finally up and running, you're greeted by a nearly identical home screen as the Xbox One. I'm a bit split on this because I would have liked to see a new user interface like Sony has created for the PS5, but I can appreciate streamlining the look across the family of consoles. It's definitely based on your preference, so if you're like me and you like the Xbox UI, you won't mind it. It's pretty straightforward and easy to use if you're new to the ecosystem. But one thing that cannot be understated is how beautiful and crisp these menus look. I have a Samsung Q6 series 4K television with FreeSync technology which enables variable refresh rates. Unfortunately, I am not able to experience the 4K 120 frames per second experience as my TV only supports a 60 Hz refresh rate. So, if you want to get the most out of all visuals, make sure you have a television that can get the job done. It's not like 120 frames per second is the standard though, and I haven't seen enough to make me feel like I'm missing something not having it right now. So do not let your TV's refresh rate be the barrier of entry if you already have a decent 4K TV. Now, I'm sure you're all like, okay, all this stuff is cool, but what about the
Games!
This is a game system. Well, I am happy to report that once you get to the games, the next generation difference becomes very apparent. You've probably heard about the loading times to the point where it's become cliche, but it has to be mentioned. I didn't compare times, but I didn't need to. You will notice it, and it's significant. Whether you're playing one of the thousands of backwards compatible titles from the original Xbox or 360 era or optimized version of Xbox One games, Microsoft has delivered on bringing gamers a top-of-the-line user experience that adds a lot of new pep to your favorite games. Frame rates are much more stable, there's improvements in resolution, and I've already discussed the quick loading times. Visually, I don't think you can help but appreciate how good these games look with things like improved textures and ray tracing. But I should also note we're in an era where the graphical fidelity between generations isn't as pronounced, and the Xbox Series X is the definition of you gotta see it to believe it. I haven't even mentioned the smart delivery feature that allows games purchased on the Xbox One to upgrade to their Series S counterparts with your saves intact. It's just another excellent consumer-friendly feature. Though I will say this is a feature that is entirely dependent on the developer, Microsoft has made a point to guarantee that all games from their studios will be enabled with smart delivery. And smart delivery is awesome. But the MVP of features for my time with the Series X was the Quick Resume. Quick Resume makes it so you can exit multiple games at any time and resume a game in your queue without having to wait for a boot up. I was able to get my count up to 6 games at a time, and it's an amazing feature. It can definitely be perfected by giving some type of visual representation of what games are in your queue, and it doesn't always work perfectly due to a bug Microsoft is working on with a few Xbox One optimized games, but even with these few kinks, I rarely had issues with it. I'm not sure why anyone would try to have more than 6 games in their queue, but Microsoft makes it very convenient if you like to switch games on the fly. I was able to go from game to game at my leisure, and it's really a feature you don't know you need until you have it. So the games look and run their best on the Xbox Series X, but we have to address the elephant in the room. Microsoft's no game stigma became a running theme of the Xbox One era, and for a good reason. It got bad enough to lead Microsoft on a studio buying spree that will undoubtedly pay off for the Xbox Series X, but that payoff is maybe a year or 2 down the road. Halo Infinite was billed as the crown jewel of the Series X, the killer app we were all waiting for. So much so that they put the OG Master Chief himself on the back of the Xbox Series X box. Sadly, while the Xbox Series X got here in all of its glory, we cannot say the same thing about the big homie Master Chief. And that is truly disappointing. There's no way to get around that. Game Pass provides an alternative to the lack of big games dropping with this console launch, but I'd be lying if I said I wouldn't have liked to see Xbox's answer to PlayStation's Miles Morales. Fortunately for me, there's a lot of games that I missed out from the Xbox One era, and I'm actually looking forward to playing them for the first time on new hardware. So, let's just get to the final verdict, man. The Xbox Series X is not a must-buy yet. If you're still satisfied by what your Xbox One, PS4, or Switch offers, you shouldn't feel pressure to upgrade. But do not get it twisted. If you're looking to upgrade, you cannot go wrong with the Xbox Series X. at all. It truly is high-end gaming hardware for console gamers, and the future hasn't been this bright for Microsoft since the beginning of the 360 era. I look forward to what Microsoft does in the future and really seeing the Series X push to its limits. If you're a gamer looking for the next generation, it is here. Games on
Mother Krack.